implemented in the country. That will be coming a little bit later. But City, let's talk about KCB. Yeah? You know, when we talk about matters to do with the country being high, over 1 million young people getting into the labor market, and the skills that they need for them to be able to be good entrepreneurs not being there. And KCB to Jajiri says, we've realized the problem that is there. We need to train the youth, give them the skill, and make sure that they are ready for the market. Now, KCB established the Tujajiri platform, and with that has created 150,000 jobs, trained 35,195 youth, incubated 10,954 youth, disbursed 267 million shillings loans to support their enterprises, and issued 2,225 startup toolkits of trade, and trained 6,535 businesses on financial planning. When we talk about giving them tools of trade, they've partnered with the company Bosch, the Bosch, and it's going around giving these young people with the tools of trade. You are a carpenter, you need power tools, drills, circular saw, hand saw, and they give you these tools after taking you through these TVETs, giving you the skill, and they tell you now, go ye and shine. KCB,
if you look at just the simplicity and the manner in which of this particular project by KCB, the manner in which it's implemented, it tells you what can happen when a group of individuals or an entity or a business decides and determines that they want to do something.
Mm-hmm.
They go about it and they start. And as they start, they realize, they understand, and they continue changing to meet the needs that they see they have.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Every year we hear of the banks posting phenomenal profits. Yes. Banks feature very, very prominently in supporting the learning of children. Now, imagine if they took that further step that KCB has taken to ensure that they're also supporting more Kenyans to be able to actually not only have the requisite skills, but to be able to actually function and start concerns that will add value to the economy, but at the same time provide employment.
Yes. Yeah. KCBgroup.com/foundation is where you'll get all the information needed for you to be part of that great initiative. Now, City, this past hour, we've just from having a discussion with Makueni Senator Dan Mazo on matters 2027 elections, where we are politically, and a lot of those who are listening, Kenyans pretty much have had a lot to say. City, if you could just look at what they are saying there, and let's just read what it is they are saying. And one is just, you even had that concern. Abduction is not arrest. It is a matter that we've been dealing with here the entire morning, and as well that arrest by abduction, what law is the practicing or quoting, just matters to do with that. That is Owen Kariuki and Robert Aduda as well. Ruto will be accountable for all these things, and as well as only in Kenya, where you define arrest by a police getting you in a car, not by what law you broke, yet the arresting police will never come to court to say why they arrested you. That is Mato Makandets. And Paul MJ here says, Dan Manzo is a great lawyer and senator from Makueni. However, hapo kwa abductions, being a form of arrest, can never be allowed to go unchallenged. Abductions are a crime perpetuated by state persons. Unemployment is surely more than 12% if you consider citizens of legal age that should be productive. City. And that is a Tumikia Kenya, and Manzo should define what an arrest is as well. And we talk about what is Dennis Aseto is my name, and there it is. They know they will be removed. Is that why IEBC is yet to be reconstituted? City, it is a concern that even as we speak right now, elections is just 2 years away. 2 years, City.
See, the question that hasn't been answered, and I answered as far as I'm concerned to my satisfaction, is what is IEBC? Is it the commission?
Is it the secretariat?
Yes. And what is it? We understand what the secretariat does, but are we saying that in the absence of the commission, that the secretariat cannot do certain things?
Even as we speak right now, even the senator alluded to it, that the young people should go and register, because
Which means you can't register.
You can't register.
The commission doesn't register voters. It's a secretariat. That's what it is. They are the operational arm. They're the ones who do get these things done. And registering people as voters does not require a commission, does it?
Yes, does not.
So there are many questions that keep arising, and we keep saying things that, well, I say things that sometimes I don't even understand myself. And perhaps, again, like with most things, we will look for somebody who understands these things better than we do. And they can come and shed light on this. Yes.
Yeah.
But on the subject of what it is that we do, sometimes I feel that politicians should at least stop talking and explaining to us things that we can all understand and see why. It's because they seem to be telling us what we know, and we seem to be going around in circles. And everyone talks, and at the end of the day, they go around and blame the president. And yet, the government, as we know it, is parliament, executive, judiciary. It's not even complicated. Yes. So, if we are to apportion blame, let the president and the executive have theirs apportioned. Let parliament have theirs apportioned. Let the judiciary have theirs apportioned. Because if the check and balance role that the other two arms of government are supposed to have in the executive, you're failing a president. You're complaining and blaming a presidency for doing what suits them, when it is your job to ensure that that doesn't happen. How?
Yeah. Because even the earlier conversation you're having with Senator Kio Mtata is delinking treasury from the presidency, and that needs an act of parliament to be there to do that. And parliament has not done that.
Yes. So how is it the president's fault again?
Yeah. Which is why even when Senator Dan Mazo says that he says he himself kama pamba, who wants everything to run well. But thing is, if you are close to power, you can come up with a petition and demand that right is done by Kenyans. Why haven't you done it so far? What is stopping you from doing that which Kenyans gave you the power to go do?
This one, unfortunately, the blame doesn't go to the president. The blame goes to them. So you're saying someone offers me a bribe and I accept it, so I blame them for my accepting a bribe. Which they've offered me. I blame them. How? And I'm the one who has accepted. Somebody has coerced me and told me they will build a road in my constituency if I do something which I understand to be patently wrong, and I blame them for having accepted to do that which even I know is wrong. How? There's always the element of an honest conversation, and I keep getting the impression and the feeling that if there's one thing that we as a nation, as a people, do not want to do, is to have honest conversations.
Exactly, City. Because we will dilly-dally around and talk about the way we want this change. We will always talk about, politicians will come and tell us the way there is state capture. But state capture of the National Assembly is because you've ceded that power. You've allowed them to do that.
Yes.
Yeah. So
you are the enablers.
You're the enablers of that.
Yes.
And as we talk about now, we have experienced politics from 2022. Now we are in 2025, 2 years to elections, and it has been politics round the corner every other day. And nothing is being done.
Exactly, and at the expense of the very things that we've been talking about and which are still there. Cost of living, it is still a problem. Unemployment, it is still a problem. The issue of the health sector, it is still a problem. The issue of the education sector and the CBC, it is still a problem. Fundamentals, nothing esoteric, nothing complicated, nothing exotic. Fundamentals, still a problem. And the people who have the ability to bring about these changes want to point fingers and say, it is so and so. Essentially absolving themselves. No, not really. No.
And even the June demonstrations that this country experienced, we say it is a moment that will be etched in our history, and rightfully so. But you're forgetting that was being pushed and fueled by the high cost of living in this country.
It is.
And Kenyans were saying, we do not want this because it will hurt us more.
Yes.
But the leadership that be, those that now are saying, we can do something in parliament, and you did not do anything at that point.
Dennis, why was Parliament overrun? That is where the finance bill was going to be passed.
Yes.
So you start there and tell them, guys, you're not passing this thing.
Yes.
I want you to understand. Because it was understood that is what they would do. So suddenly, it is the fault of someone else who is pushing the agenda. That person bears the blame for their role.
Yes.
But Parliament are very able enablers. Extremely. Extremely. In fact, if you ask me, the real culprit, if you look at our laws, why is it you think that if you are caught with deeds and issues and property that are known to have been stolen, the law gives you a much, much harsher punishment. You know why? You are an enabler. In the absence of someone who deals with stolen goods or goods that have been illegally acquired, the person who's stealing would be less reluctant because they would not know where to offload the stolen goods. So here we have an enabler and we're calling it Parliament. And the worst thing is that we are the ones who've actually given these people the power to go and represent us. Yes. And then they blatantly go and represent themselves and their interests. But blatantly. As we say in Kenya, in broad daylight. And then it's somebody else's fault for what they have done, and we can see them doing it. Nah.
I mean, Siti, you've raised something that is very critical, that it is about time that we as Kenyans started having honest conversations on where we are and what we want to achieve as a republic. Unless we sit down and start having these honest conversations, we are not moving. We are not going.
No, we will not move. And the Gen Zs actually introduced that honest conversation and said, folks, this is the problem. And it's not being handled right, and it must be handled right. It's not complicated.
Yes.
No mollycoddling it and going around in circles and pretending it's working when it's not. If it's not working, it's not working. So then, since we have admitted it isn't, how then do we fix it?
Yes. Siti, it is 21 minutes after 9 a.m. and our guest is in studio, Dr. Brian Lishenga, Chairperson, Rural and Urban Private Hospitals Association of Kenya, also known as RUFA. And we're talking about payment, disbursement and financial health of SHA provider, a 2024 survey. Now, this is a conversation on matters to do with health in this country that also seemingly does not seem to be working very, very well. Dr. Brian, welcome on the Situation Room. You are on the hot seat. And let's just welcome you on the show the way we do it best. City today is in a very famous country on this very beautiful continent.
Yes, it is. A very, very famous country indeed. Actually, it is famous.
Yes.
Okay. It is next to a country that has the second longest coastline on the continent. Literally next.
Kenya.
I don't know what it is with these Kenyans and their country. Honestly. These Kenyans and their country. Some people are paying attention during geography classes. And the geography class was not in medical school. It was much, much earlier.
I was saying Somalia should have the longest coastline.
It doesn't. Madagascar.
Oh, really?
It's an island.
All right.
So it would have a longer
coastline.
For sure. Because if I could just give the figure since you mentioned it, 3,333 kilometers. That is the coastline of Somalia. But if you were to ask Madagascar,
yes,
brother, it is infinitely much longer than that one.
That's the good life.
The entire country is a coastline.
You've got it.
Yes.
The entire country is a coastline. Yes. Now, our proverbs for this week are in the Kiswahili language, which is our national language. Mlachake, mwenziwe na chake uliwa.
You have to come back again. Mula?
Mlachake. Let me speak Swahili with you, Lazani. Yule ambayo anakula yake. Is that you've understood? Okay, good. That's mlachake. Mwenziwe na chake uliwa.
Mlachake, mwenziwe
na chake uliwa.
This one city
No. By the way, this one, there's no get out of jail.
Mlachake, mwenziwe chake
uliwa. Anayekula cha mwenziwe na chake pia uliwa.
But I thought the first part was mlachake is eating his. ama she's
Yes.
eating yake.
Yes.
Mwenziwe.
Focus on mwenziwe.
Focus on mwenziwe.
Oh.
So any class was a bit of a problem, wasn't it? The classes were...
So now you see, to get into medical school, you just need English. You know?
You know that should change.
Anachoma. What happens if in your TZ?
So how do you explain to your patients when the patient says no one or two, but tell them your appendix is ndio tumeangalia, tumekagua, and then what do you say?
You have kidney
So I will look
stones.
for the Swahili word for appendix.
So you have a Kiswahili English
Kamusi.
dictionary with you. Ngoja kidogo. Hii appendix ni
Inaitwa
Kale ka nini?
ambayo inafanya nini?
City, this is a massive jail you have put me in.
Anayekula cha mwenzake pia yake
uliwa.
That's what.
Yes.
So tell me, what does that mean?
I think my understanding is what goes around comes around.
And you are giving up and you've understood it.
What goes around comes around.
Yes.
Maybe even with interest.
Yes, it does. It usually comes compounded, actually.
Yes. Compound interest.
And if you get biblical on it,
Yes.
it's generational.
Yes.
And when you have the Kenyanness in it, cost of living high.
Yes. And sindio hiyo?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Daktari,
Yes.
we talk about SHA.
Yes.
And the issues surrounding SHA now. We talk about the payment disbursement. And it has been a major problem, especially with hospitals saying we've not received payment. That is, even the payments that we have, there are those who've been favored, and us we're getting little or we're not getting anything at all. What's up?
It's an interesting mix of issues. The knowledge I have regarding this issue is that I am beginning to be more convinced every day that we have a design issue.
Okay.
And we did talk about this potential design problem immediately the idea of SHA was mooted. As soon as we got access to the proposed documents, what the reform would look like, if you looked at it keenly, you could see that there was an idea to have a two-tier healthcare system. And just to explain, so before, we just know we have level 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay.
These are hospitals. And what Kenyans maybe don't understand is that your level 2 is what you would call your dispensary.
Okay.
And then so they don't have wards. They might have an emergency room or a waiting room.
But you can't be admitted.
But you'll not be admitted. So they are usually community level. They deal with what you'd call minor ailments or follow-up of patients who are stable. It is a facility that you would find in most of our wards, our villages, our small villages. Level 2. Level 3 is your health center. Your health center is usually typically much larger, and their key strength would be taking care of women and children. So the maternity services, the child services, immunization, you will definitely find a maternity wing where women can deliver, and some of them, depending, because now we have level 3A and 3B, depending on the class, some of them actually do have even a theater. But the theater would then be limited to delivering children. So that's your health center. Then you have your level 4 hospital, which a long time ago, CT, used to be called the district hospital.
Yes.
So this used to be the main hospital everywhere in Kenya. It was the district hospital.
It was a headquarter.
It was a
headquarter hospital for every district.
Yes. This was where if you can't be sorted there, you go to Kenyatta. That used to be the idea. Okay. So, but with devolution, most of these level 4 hospitals got converted to what we call sub-county hospitals. And then some of them, of course, they got elevated to what we call county referrals. Now, there is the other class above level 4. So level 4 should be your busy hospital where everything is happening. And if you look at how the Ministry of Health had defined it, it's where you have at least 4 of the foundational specialties of medicine. You have what we call internal medicine, which is your physicians. You have the pediatricians. You have the OBGYs, and you have the surgeons.
So let's say like Mbagathi.
So Mbagathi will be there, say. So you'd find your four primary specialists there. And then these hospitals would definitely usually be larger, maybe 50 to 100 beds, 2 theaters, all this. They have a mortuary or something. Now, remember, everything I'm describing also overlaps into private sector and faith-based. So even if you are a faith-based hospital like Kijabe or whichever, PCH or Goria, you also have the same delineation. You'll be classified as a level 4 if you have that. Then the level 5s, just for reference for the general public, is what now we call our county referrals.
Former provincial hospitals.
The former provincial hospital. So Coast General, Nakuru, the one in Nakuru, Kisumu was upgraded, now it's a level 6. But generally, you get the picture.
Yeah.
The county referral hospital now is a level 5, and then the level 6s are Kenyatta. You know them, the big names, national. So the thing is, when you looked at the reform, they decided that we will have one finance bucket, the primary healthcare fund, that will be specifically dedicated to level 2 and 3. That is what actually the law says. That is what we passed under the SHA Act.
Okay.
And then you will have another fund called SHIF, Social Health Insurance Fund, which will be used to pay for healthcare at level 4, 5, and 6. They created a third fund called the Emergency Chronic and Critical Illnesses Fund, which, if you look at it operationally, is supposed to cut across all the levels, because if you are in an emergency, you can land anywhere. But the chronic illness part of that fund really is only largely operational at level 4, 5, 6, because if you're looking at a patient on palliative treatment for cancer, or patient who has renal failure, they'll probably be going to 4, 5. So here's the thing. This is what I'm trying to say. The genesis of the financial crisis we are seeing today could be seen in the design, because the primary healthcare fund is entirely funded by Parliament. That is what the law says. So Parliament will appropriate money every year in the budget to fund level 2 and 3. So essentially, our hands are tied there. And then now your contributions, once Kenyans have been saying, hii pesa inaenda wapi, this 2.75%, that is going to the SHIF fund. Which now is operational at level 4, 5, and 6. What we know, even from the history of NHIF, and this is why we are warning the government that you are falling into the same trap that collapsed NHIF. What we know from the history was that contributors, Kenyans, you and I, people who get chopped off on their pay slips or they make voluntary contributions, were quite, forget the voluntary ones, especially pay slip workers, were quite consistent in making contributions, because what would you do?
You don't have an option.
So you just chop. They deducted your pay as you earn, and every other thing.
Yes.
They chopped off that one also.
It gets chopped off, and employers were fined reasonably high amounts of money for failing to remit NHIF in time. So that sector was very consistent in paying. Now, people ask, why did NHIF fail? NHIF was failing because government agencies, ministries, departments, when they chop off the money from their employees' salaries, they are under no duress to remit. So you look at these parastatals, these ministries, they are sending the employees' pay slips saying, tumekata, payee, what. And even KRA has the same issues with them, because income tax, a lot of them didn't remit. Pensions have never been remitted for many years, and so was NHIF. So now, we are now back in that situation today, because one, Parliament appropriated a measly 4 billion shillings for primary health care for this financial year. A measly 4 billion shillings. When we protested, we were told you are putting the cart before the horse or the donkey. We don't know how many people have registered, so you wait. When we see how many people are registered, we'll go to Parliament and ask Parliament to give us more money. Of course, that is not going to work that way. Now, we now have a financial crisis at the lower level, where 75% of Kenyans seek care. So your level 2 and 3s are the ones who serve everyone. And they are the same ones.
But the data as to who it is who goes to level 1 to 3 exists.
Yes. The numbers exist. And
So you know exactly what to expect.
Yes, exactly.
So that logic that you just mentioned, they were saying that wait for people to register, that doesn't...
It flies in the face of the data.
Yes,
Yeah.
it does.
It looked like a convenient way to not make a commitment.
Yes.
So where are we today? The situation where we surveyed hospitals just to find out since 1st of October, this quarter, to end of December, how have you been doing financially now that we are fully in SHA? And what we found out is that for the hospitals which are contracted, 58% of them told us they have not received even a single payment, even one. So this flies in the face also of the statements, the public statements that have been, you have seen a lot of them, we've paid 7 billion, we paid 9 billion, we paid 12 billion.
Who was it paid to?
It's a question because you see 12 billion is serious money.
My friend. It's a lot of
Yes.
money.
If you pour that money into a group of just 5,000 hospitals, they will you can just do simple division if everybody was to get equally. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So the question then is it PR? Is it public relations? Because we have no visibility. And part of the things we are trying to achieve through asking providers is we should have payment transparency at SHA. Remember, part of the reason why they said NHIF was wrong, they said there was corruption. NHIF had corruption, there were cartels which were eating money. What we said about the cartels is, surely you have the data. You know, if you are paying a hospital, your auditors have a list of the hospitals you have paid. Publish. Make it public. We will if once you publish 100 names, you don't even have to write to us, to write the figures you've paid, because people might say you are making our finances public. Just say we've paid these guys. The same way when public procurement tenders are done and people are awarded and paid, you find them on the website of the Public Procurement Authority. So you just publish the names of the people you've paid, cross-reference those names against the database at KMPDC. Because KMPDC maintains a register of all validly licensed and registered open facilities. So if you say you've paid Brian Lishenga's hospital, KMPDC can quickly tell you that's a fake hospital if it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist, yes.
So what we are trying to say about this is, let's not have public statements saying, hey, since November, we've paid 7.3 billion. And then when you ask the hospitals, have you gotten money? Close to 60% tell, we are not seeing it. If you ask Kenyans, are you being asked to pay out of pocket when you go to hospital? Kenyans are telling you,
Yes.
in fact, today morning, I have been asked to pay. And when you break down the data granular, what do you find? You find, for instance, 67% of primary care hospitals, the level 2s and 3s are telling you, they are saying, ata peni hatujaona. And then this is why, and I've been getting a lot of calls from ministry people saying, you guys are fighting reforms. We are not fighting reforms. We have always said as hospitals, it is in our best interest for SHA to work and in the interest of Kenyans, because if it doesn't work, what do we have?
Yeah.
Now, when you look at it, you see 67% haven't been paid. But when you break it down, you even see there's a difference between private hospitals and faith-based hospitals. So the private hospitals, 81% of level 2s and level 3s
They're even worse off.
are worse off. The faith-based organizations are not really any better, because about 58% of them also say they haven't been paid. Now, this is the pushback we are getting. After we publish this data, which by the way also include Ministry of Health facilities, even public facilities also participated in the survey, and they also said they are suffering. When we publish this data, now the discussion is no longer about whether we have paid you guys or not. Now they want to see what was your sampling methodology. Now they are, in fact, I am feeling like very soon we might be summoned to appear before an organization like Kenya Bureau of Statistics or somebody to say, okay, can you explain? We have pushed back, told them, it's not about RUFA or whoever publishing a survey. You as SHA have the data of who you are paying. The CEO of SHA wrote a memo 2 days ago and said, I have paid 5,000 hospitals.
Which hospital is the question?
5,000 hospitals. Now, we as hospitals know that the total number of contracted hospitals is 3,994. So you know that kind of stuff is very dangerous, because we will quickly ask him, who are these other 1,000 who are not contracted that you have paid?
Now, let's take a short commercial break. We come back and go deeper into this survey, and also just get to understand how all these issues with regard to payment of funds to hospitals is affecting access to healthcare for Kenyans.
Absolutely.
This.
Women are earning 100,000. I think men should not respond and say, "Oh, they're now earning. Boy child has been forgotten." No, the idea is, so affirmative action is working.
Yeah.
What can we do more?
Business is hard. I tell always the people, business is hard, and especially now you can see with the economy, many businesses are struggling to survive. Can you imagine how much more complicated it is when you throw this thing called family into it?
Yeah.
Very successful men who have made a lot of money but have left very dysfunctional houses. It has come at a cost that one wonders whether it was worth it in the end.
Children or boys take a bit of a harder hit when maybe the father is overly successful, because then you're constantly compared and you're constantly trying to match up, because that's the example that has been shown.
When I have back pain, I reach for 2 tablets of Panadol Extra. And I am finally released from pain and ready to be there for those who need me. Try Panadol Extra for fast and effective relief.
Bring out all the fun, all the chaos, and all the sports, local and international, with the greatest of all true sports friends. The GOATs, Carol Radul, Kieni Givinji, and the great Roy Karuhise make their return on the playground every Saturday from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Spice FM 94.4.
Why are you lying? I want to be president.
Every Saturday from 2 p.m. on Spice FM 94.4 on the playground.
Radula tried to run away from God. They owned her.
It's all the fun and games na yote katikati.
Communiquer, très important.
Le gouverneur Kibandou Mungiti. Sayombe.
Olivier Solo, Dede Wachiba. Jackie Murembo, Smart.
Le grand DJ Mato Sibur.
Have paid your dues, you have been deducted from your salary, you go to hospital and you're told you need to pay from pocket. How dire is the situation for Kenyans to access healthcare in these hospitals?
Okay, so we had one of the survey questions we asked was a simple question. We asked hospitals, straightforward question: are you in financial distress? It was a yes or no, no other
I'd
choices.
just like to backtrack a little bit.
Yes,
So that when you give that information, it makes sense. Who are which hospitals or which groupings of hospitals did you collaborate with?
So the survey was conducted between the 24th and the 31st of November.
Yes.
December rather. And we sent out the survey to about 1,500 hospitals, which are within, covered by 4 associations. That is the Rural and Urban Private Hospital Association, RUFA, Kenya Association of Private Hospitals, the Christian Health Association of Kenya, CHAC, which is the one that oversees your PCAs, Kina Kijabe, and then the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops Secretariat, which is for the Catholic hospitals. We sent out to all these 5 associations because we decided to collaborate on this particular one on payments. So what we did get out of the 1,500 possible respondents, we received 272 responses, which is sufficient for that population. In terms of, it's a very good sample size. It's more than it's somewhere close to 15 to 20%, 15%. So we then analyze that data. So we know that 20% thereabout of the respondents were faith-based organizations.
Okay.
And then about 3% were Ministry of Health, which we generally excluded from the rest of the report, except for a few insights, because we felt the sample size was too small. There was about 10 facilities. And then we had 77% was private sector. Now, the reason we felt fairly confident about this data was that it actually more or less aligns with what we have nationally in terms of the distribution of facilities, with a very big skew towards private sector investment. Yes. And also, we also felt like there was an overrepresentation of faith-based, because the faith-based hospitals which are registered in Kenya are about 350. Only. So if you can get even 50 of them responding, it's a very big response from that group. And then we broke down the data to see how many are level 2s, how many are level 3s, 4, 5, 6, etc. And also what we found out from that data is 65% of the private hospitals were what we call primary, level 2 and 3. Okay. And then about 53% of faith-based were level 2 and 3. About 32% of respondents on both sides, both faith-based and private, were level 4s. Now, the level 5 and 6 were a very small number on the private sector. It's just 3% on the private sector, which is consistent with the national data. On the FBO side, the level 5 and 6 were 13%, which is consistent also with their representation there, because they have invested heavily in our PCA, Chogoria, Kikuyu, AIC, Kijabe. They have a bit of a good number of level 5s and 6, level 5s especially in this country are faith-based organizations. So when we look at that sample, it was fairly consistent with what is there in the register. Now, out of these 272 facilities, we then cleaned up the data a little bit, because we noticed about 7 facilities had answered twice. So we had duplicates. So we removed them. And then we removed also some facilities which had told us, because one of the questions earlier was, are you contracted by SHA? So we had about 12 facilities which said no, we had not signed contract by SHA. So we removed them. We ended up with 243 unique facilities that we can sample, and we looked at them. Now, that is the sample size we carried forward, and we started disaggregating it, saying, okay, let's deal, for every question we were doing, we say, how are primary care facilities doing and how are tertiary level facilities doing? So even on the financial distress question, we got everybody to answer. It was a mandatory question. But then when we did the analysis, we said, okay, let's ask ourselves, are primary facilities doing worse than tertiary facilities?
Who's doing worse?
And you do, of course, primary facilities are doing much more worse. And for me, and this is what I think that our colleagues at the ministry and at the presidential advisor team, what they should be doing is not saying sample design, etc. Because my background is actually academic research. Yeah. So we can go into that discussion and never finish, But what they should be saying is that, what is it out of this survey? And we've done, like the SHA transition surveys where we were monitoring the SHA transition, we have done 6 of them. We are actually going to send out another SHA transition survey in this month of January. We've done 6 of them. They have the reports, and they should be asking ourselves, why does the sample, why does this data say level 2s and 3 are suffering? What is it that we got wrong in our design? Or what is it that we are missing? Do you know what? The answers are just right before them. Let me give you a simple answer. For example, primary care facilities only exist on something called capitation payment. Capitation payment, which even Kenyans don't understand, is a fairly complex topic. But what it is in a basic term, they say, how many Kenyans live in a place X? Okay, 100,000. So if there are 100,000, how many of them have contributed to SHA? Okay, 40,000. So they are supposed to take 40,000 contributors to SHA and allocate each one of them, okay, 900 shillings per year in the budget, and then pay those facilities there to take care of these people. Now, as I started by saying, if you follow that, the amount of money we need to offer primary care in Kenya is 45 billion. Okay?
45 billion.
Yes, 45 billion. Because you see, do just back of the envelope mathematics. 900 bob per Kenyan. Say we have 50 million Kenyans. We need 45 billion. Now,
what is the amount then that will be allocated to each individual?
900 shillings per year.
It brings us to 45 billion.
Yes, brings us to 45 billion. Now, let's come to where we are. I had the president say, Juicy, recently, that we have now registered 17 million people in SHA. So let's assume that's what we are dealing with. If we are dealing with 17 million Kenyans in SHA registered as at today, first week of January, it's simple envelope math. 17 million times 900 bob. We need roughly about 17 million times 900 bob. We need roughly about 17B to provide care for Kenyans up to December.
Yeah.
That's what we need. Now, does SHA have that money? I will tell you plain that they don't have the money. They don't have the money because why? The primary care fund is a parliamentary appropriation. Parliament closed that story with the last finance bill, isn't it? They appropriated 4 billion. So for us, unless there's a supplementary, there's no other way to reach 17 billion to provide care for these 17 million Kenyans. Now, so as long, and this is the alarm we are raising, as long as that is the scenario, level 2 and level 3 facilities in this country will keep on having financial distress, one. But even what should even worry them more is the fact that an ordinary Kenyan who has been promised that you will be walking to a facility and walking out without paying, that is not going to be their experience. Their experience will be, because the facility has to pay, the nurse has to keep the lights on, they will pay out of pocket. When we surveyed in the last survey we did on SHA transition in December, which was not a payment survey, when we asked providers what is the public perception on SHA, the number one problem the public was saying was out-of-pocket payment. Out-of-pocket payment. So we went further and asked providers, how many of you are charging? And this is a very sensitive question. Imagine asking a provider to disclose that they are charging people out of pocket. But they were gracious enough and responded. And I even believe that data was more mild than it should have been. About 60% of hospitals said every single patient who walks in has to pay. They have to pay. Then we asked them, why are Kenyans paying? Why ask them to pay? And we found that there were multiple reasons. Of course, some of them are not registered by SHA. Some patients actually just were saying we don't want to register. Let me just pay cash and go. Others were technical issues because the way the system is designed now, you have to get a one-time PIN on your phone before the hospital can process you. You are there 3 hours later with a child with a fever, the PIN hasn't arrived. Of course, the mom will say, okay, kwani ni pesa ngapi? See, I just pay this, I go. I'm waiting for this PIN, is not coming. But deeper under that were hospitals saying, if I have nurses who are asking me to give them one of the wards walale hapo because landlord amefunga nyumba. There are hospitals who are telling us we send patients across the street to the chemist to pick drugs because we don't have the drugs, we don't have the supplies. And the reason why we don't have this is we don't have money. Now, the ministry people would argue that why are hospitals complaining at a SHA ijaanza that time? But they forget another elephant in the room. It is called NHIF arrears. Money that these hospitals were paid, were owed by NHIF over years. I mean, I know of a public hospital, I mention his name, that is owed 1 billion shillings by the defunct NHIF since 2017. The only reason why that hospital is still running is because taxes pay the salaries of their workers. If it was a private sector hospital, that one we would have auctioned it.
Yeah.
Now, some people even thought that these hospitals, za makanisa, they get sadaka.
Yeah.
So maybe they are not under distress. Yeah, people argue like that our these faith-based hospitals, they are collecting tithe.
But even if that is the case, that is not the discussion.
It's a diversion.
Yes.
Huh?
I mean,
it's totally diversionary.
If you have a new system and you refer to what is often called teething problems, everything you described, would it fall into the category of what we would call teething problems of a new system?
Yeah, so it's a mix of things. One, there's teething problems, but others are, if I use Kiswahili, which is not my mdomo, others are mwibo wa kujidunga. So some of them are problems you could have predicted will happen.
Or maybe they were seen, because in designing something of this sort, and you already have a system that you can learn from, if this is what we're dealing with, and we had a system that we supposedly learn from, then did we learn anything from the previous system, which we said had problems? Because these problems seem to be more than the problems we had before the system. And that's why I asked whether these are just teething problems, because they're thinking behind it, and when we look at what it is that they're saying, one could say, yes, it looks like it's a good thing. But now, the issue of it actually working, what we normally call implementation. I was reading the article that spoke of the survey that you did. And one of the things that was mentioned, that 40% of people who were surveyed, 40% claimed that they had actually received payments from the defunct NHIF. They received.
They got, yes, 40%.
40%. Now, when they say they got, do you mean they got everything they were owed, or they just got some money? Because
it's a very interesting question, City. So there was another question there about what percentage of your, if you have been paid, what percentage of your liabilities has been settled?
Yes.
And do you know what we got? The vast majority of them said less than 10%. Vast majority. And that figure was worse the lower you go. In other words, if you have a smaller hospital, you are more likely to receive less money than if you have a larger hospital.
So then it begs the question that we had asked earlier on, if the amounts that we were told had been disbursed, and if you were to do the maths, whatever it is that is spoken of by the administrations of these hospitals, does it amount to that?
You mean like by what is owed?
7 billion was given.
Yes.
When you talk, maybe you didn't ask the question, but I'm asking the question. This is a rhetorical question.
Yes.
Does the total amount of money that was received by hospitals, and which they say categorically they received, would it amount to 7 billion?
No.
Okay,
No.
so let me backtrack again. What was the sum total of what was actually owed? What are hospitals claiming in total?
So your question is very interesting. One of the things that we as Kenyans have not properly demanded is in February last year, the then Cabinet Secretary Nahumicha gazetted a committee called the Transitional Committee,
Yes.
which was headed by one Jackson Kipkarwok. And it had quite eminent personalities in there, technical guys. To this day, as we are sitting here, which, by the way, they used public resources for over 6 months to go and audit NHIF liabilities, assets, employees, etc. That report to this day has never been made public. So one of the problems, and we have, as an association, we asked, we said, we are an interested party. We want to know, by the way, what did your experts find out? How much actually does NHIF have on its books as liabilities, assets? I mean, if you're going to and this is a very important question, because the NHIF did not have any money that was government money, if I might call it government money.
Yes.
All the money that was in NHIF was contributors' money. So this is money for people.
Yeah.
So it is truly not out of place for the people to ask,
Excuse me,
me, you have collected my money for God knows how many years. And where did you buy shamba? Who do you owe? So they didn't make this report public. And we even had to invoke the Access to Information Act and write to Jackson Kipkarwok and tell him, as citizens, we have a duty to know, now that you have used even our public money to sit down and do, what is it? But that being as it may, we do have people called whistleblowers. So whistleblowers sneaked the main part of the report, not the annexes. they sneaked because whatever you say about Kenya, we still have a lot of Kenyans of goodwill out there. Many. Yes,
We would have collapsed a long time
ago.
Yes.
Even within these institutions, there are guys who just say, no, this is not right. We must get it is not right. So we saw the report, a sneak of that report, the main report. And what I have seen on those books is NHIF says that it owed providers 25 billion as at beginning of August. But it also confesses in the report that there is 2.7 million in sorry, let me backtrack. Not 25 billion. They owe providers 15 billion verifiable. 15.7, just about there. Which means that if they log into their software, they can see these are claims which we owe. But then they said at the same time that there is 2.7 million claims, which they don't know their value, and it is hanging somewhere.
Time.
Daktari.
Time.
Time is not on our side. Dr. Brian Lishenga, Chairperson, Rural and Urban Private Hospitals Association of Kenya, matters to do with SHA. These are conversations that we will invite you again to discuss further, to know where our healthcare status is and if SHA at all is working. It is 9 a.m., 10 a.m. Good morning.